Hello StarCraft fans, this is Falcon Paladin coming to you with yet another daily Legacy of the Void upload. This is a game between Neuro and Tessor on Orbital Shipyard. This is a ZVT, and it's a pretty high level. And let's get right on into it. In the top right of Orbital Shipyard, we have the red Zerg player. It is Neuro, representing Exile 5. And in the bottom left of Orbital Shipyard, we have the blue Terran player. It is Tessor, representing Pyros or something. There's a burning eagle or something there. I don't know what that is. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments, but pretty fun stuff indeed. All right, so ZVT on Orbital Shipyard. We haven't had this map for a while. I think last week there was a string of maybe 4 or 5 straight games on Orbital Shipyard, and people are like, what is going on? Why is this map here so much? And generally the answer to that is because in tournament settings anyway, you can veto certain maps. And so weird stuff like Central Protocol gets vetoed right away because Protoss and Terran generally don't like that map very much. And so you won't see them in the early stages of a series, really only until you get games to 4, 5, 6, 7 will you start to see the weirder stuff pop up. So you see a lot of Orbital Shipyard, you see a lot of Dusk Towers, the maps that everybody are considered to be pretty balanced. And that's the reason for that. Anyway, back here in the StarCraft, Neuro is throwing down an early hatch, about a 16 hatchery there. It looks like a 1-Rax expand coming here from Tessor based on the gas timing here as well, getting 3 workers into that gas before the barracks is finished. I imagine it will be a Reaper opening. Gas might be a little bit late here for Tessor. We'll see if he gets that 50 gas he needs as soon as that barracks finishes. And it looks like it's going to be very close, but not quite. No cigar. He's at 40. 44, 48, and 50, and they're actually going into a reactor. So hey, howdy, hey. It is a reactor instead of that Reaper. So playing more of a defensive style, basically what the Terran is doing is getting the barracks with the reactor, going to pump out a couple Marines, then go for a factory, swap the factory over here to get the reactor, and then double pump Hellions and try to get the harassment out that way. It's a little bit delayed. But the Reaper, again, isn't super effective at killing stuff in the current meta of ZVT. Zergs have learned to deal with a single Reaper pretty easily. Just get out 4 Lings or so, a couple Queens. As long as you stay on the creep with the Lings, you can push that Reaper away, and then once speed is up, it's over. So, I mean, a good scout can happen with the Reapers. You can get the same information with an SCV, which is exactly what Tessor is trying to do. And speeds up 2 Queens out immediately. Again, I think Neuro is expecting a Reaper. But this Overlord flying on in should be able to see that's not what is happening here. There goes the factory, as foretold. Double gas here, 3 workers on each of those refineries, and indeed the command center came up after the barracks. So again, a 1-Rax expand into double Marines. Quadruple Marines actually. He wants 4. I guess the timing works out there. By the time this factory is finished, these 2 Marines will have popped out anyway. So, alright, no big deal. And yeah, so I guess while there's a bit of a slow moment here while this Overlord tries to stay alive, again, I will be doing 1 ZVZ, 1 TVT, and 1 PvP per week. I do recommend you watch those because I will only find the most interesting versions of those particular matchups. You can trust me with this. They won't be boring, they will be exciting, and they'll be long, and you'll be glad that you watched them. So again, give them a try. You can also watch my ZVTs and ZVPs and PVTs and all the PVTs and all that stuff as well. Man, those things rhyme, they're hard to say. And it'll be a good time. So there we go. Factory throwing onto that reactor immediately. Hellions, ready, get set. Hellions, go. Alright, no Hellions yet. The Lings come popping on up. They are slow Lings, the worst units in the entire game. There goes a single Hellion. There goes the second Hellion coming out. But guess what? A 3rd base is on the way for Neuro. Should be finished here by the time the Hellions finish and get up here to that 3rd base. 2 extract evolution chambers coming up for Neuro. 9 drones in production, 26 to 24 harvesters right now. That Zerg Mako is really kicking into high gear because he hasn't had to worry about any harassment here at almost the 4-minute mark. Not a huge fan of this build, honestly. Don't want to play Terran, but I haven't seen a lot of success with this unless it moves into a really strong timing push in about 2 or 3 minutes. Usually the Zergs are very happy to not have to deal with anything for this long. So 2 Hellions, gonna get a Widow Mine next to go with it. Man, that just tells me we're looking at defense here from Tessor. That SCV is going to die. If it gets a let inside, the Lings will come inside. Sorry, SCV, you were sacrificed to kill all these Lings. Probably a fair trade in Neuro's estimation. And, oh my goodness, double Starport coming up. What is this? Double Starport, and one of those is a Banshee. The other one probably should be a Banshee as well. Tessor, I think, waiting on some money. There it is. So, 2-port Banshee out of a reactored factory here. Widowmine heading on out again into defensive position, making sure that any Lings try to come up here are going to take a big shot from that Widowmine. But right now it is 40 to 29 Harvesters. Neuro looking great. There's Cloak on the way as well, but again, I just don't think this is something that's going to cause a problem for Neuro. He already has a Spore Crawler up here. He knows that Banshees are a likelihood, or at least drops. I mean, might as well get a Spore Crawler just for the heck of it. If you haven't seen anything to this point, know that the Terran player does have at least one starport, and possibly two. And we'll be sending flying units after you fairly soon. Again, here at the 5-minute mark, Legacy of the Void timings are very fast. And so just be ready for those, and I think you will have a happy day. +1/+1 here for the melee and the carapace for Neuro. Maybe working into ultras. There's a lair on the way, so that makes a lot of sense. 11 drones in production at once. He is up to 49. More drones popping in, using some drones to build stuff as well. Yeah, I mean, 53 to 37 Harvesters. Here comes a push with 4 Hellions and 2 Banshees that almost have Cloak, but not quite. So there are Queens trying to deal with this. Queens and Spore Crawlers in great positions. That Spore Crawler and that Spore Crawler, just fantastic. Be so careful, Banshee. Ooh, the Spore Crawler turns its head and says, where is that Banshee? Where is it? The Overlords over here are going to scout this dead area to see where the Banshees are going to come and go. The Hellions get a pie pass, though, right on into this mineral line. Oh, run for your lives, drones. No, don't line up like that. Oh, big lineup. Now starting to split. But a little bit too late. Not the greatest split on this right side either. Losing so many drones there. Stabbing away at the Hellions. The Banshees do have a good area in which to attack this hatchery. The Queens are otherwise occupied. All the Hellions do get cleaned up, but guess what? 17 drones died. 17. Wow, more drones are dying. Look at this. Oh, they found a little weak spot in the Spore Crawler defense here, but a Queen pops out. Spore Crawler gets a couple shots off. The Banshees decide to back out once again. The Queens are going to chase them, spread creep inside their own base, so the Banshees don't have even more of a dead area to work in. And look at that. 21 drones have died. That is how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. The Hellion run by was huge. There just wasn't anything to deal with them. Neuro didn't really have any Lings or any Roaches. He's pretty much pushing, it looks like, straight towards Ultras. I've done this build before. You get as much gas as you can. You already have these extractors up here. Putting some workers on gas would be good. I think he'd already have them there, except he lost so many drones he needs to replace them. And by getting them on minerals, he can make that happen. Meanwhile, during that attack, Tessor did get a 3rd base, which is nice, throwing up missile turret after missile turret. Was there a spire that he saw that I didn't see? Because there's an infestation pit, and there's a roach warren, and there are evolution chambers. There is not a spire. I don't know, unless it's to kill this Overseer, which... You know what? That worked pretty well. The Overseer didn't scout nearly anything. Did see the Banshee count, which is 5. A pretty high Banshee count. Actually, I'm surprised to see that many here from Tessor. Oversaturated here at this base. Needs to transfer some drones down here to the 3rd base. There are mules, but they will expire soon. And there actually comes the Spire. So Neuro saw the missile turrets and said, I think I would like to go Spire. How does that sound to you? And then the other part of Neuro said, yes, that sounds lovely. Let's do it. So 3 base here. I believe Neuro should want to take a 4th base pretty darn soon. I prefer this area just because it's a little bit out of the way. Usually Terrans aren't super interested in scouting up here, but regardless, this base is a little bit closer. You do have to knock down this debris, which takes a while for Zerg, but in the end is not that bad. A hive definitely on the way. Pathogen glands going to finish. But definitely going to see some infestors here as well. That does give the infestors plus 25. Yep, extra plus 25 energy when they hatch out, which is just so very nice. Another Hellion push. Round 2 of Hellion push. I don't know how this is going to work. These Queens are ready to poke away at them, try to drive them back. Roach is getting in right into position as well, but trying to bypass all the Roaches. And yes, good micro by Tessor, getting right past all of those Roaches. Moving on in to the natural. Because, again, no spines here either. Look at all these drones just absolutely getting roasted alive. Run for your lives, drones. And trying to run away, but getting lined up instead. Oh, no. The drone's actually coming back in. Why are you coming back, drones? Oh, getting focused down. All the Hellions died. But guess what? 33 drones have now died. It's 60 to 53 Harvesters. Tessor is in the lead, but infestors are popping out. Pneumatized Carapace on the way, Corruptors, and a Greater Spire happening as well. So Neuro basically said, go ahead and kill my workers. I'm getting my tech up as fast as I possibly can. A sub 9-minute and Greater Spire, which is dead impressive. A Raven on the way. For those who said, why don't we see Ravens? Here's one. Here's one for you, Terran fan on my channel. Creep spread looking okay. I mean, it's already here to this middle thing, which is always nice. Pushing creep up here. Pretty fun as well. I don't know if it has necessarily a lot of value, but it's pretty fun to do. Hellion checking to make sure there's not a double expand going on by Neuro, or indeed there is not. So it looks like more of a mech play. There are Liberators, Vikings, we got Hellbats in transformation as well, a small scattering of Marines, but I think that's the only Marines there are on the field. Number of Marines, 5. 5 indeed, so it looks like a meching Terran. In one of my recent replays, I said, why don't we ever see mech from Terran? And the answer was, it's maybe not that good, so we'll see if Tessor can make it work. Because I'd be interested to see if that is the case. He is a Masters level player going against a Grandmaster here in Neuro, trying to make his way up to those higher levels. The Banshees come rolling on in. This Queen is going to die. Look at this. Ready, set, die. All these workers as well. Their lives are completely forfeit. The Banshees just crushing them. Not even trying to run is Neuro. Finally running, but too little, too late. Every single worker is dead. There are 3 Queens, 4 Queens, and 3 Corruptors coming on in as well. That is enough to actually force the Banshees away. They cannot shoot up or out at other air units. The Corruptors are going to chase them down as much as they can here. And might get another Banshee just based on the angle of attack, and indeed they do. The Corruptors do pretty darn well in this situation, but pushing out here is Tessor with his Liberators and his Vikings and his Hellbats. So the Hellbats are for the Lings, a tank there as well for some Roaches. Banshees for Roaches as well, and the splash damage on Liberators does pretty well against Corruptors. The Vikings as well should help a lot with that. So here comes a small push from Tessor, and there are some Infestors getting a fungal down on the Liberators as well as the Vikings. Ooh, actually using point defense drone here, a PDT coming up, stopping a lot of the attacks from the Corruptors, but is it enough? No, that is not it. Tessor losing his whole darn army there. Yahoo! Queens finishing off a tank. You don't see that a whole lot. And retreating back on home. Tessor says, just make Queens. It's fine. You're definitely GM caliber. He does have a lot of Queens. Look at this Queen count. Insane. He doesn't even have missile attack for his Queens. It's just Carapace. That's funny. Corruptor count also pretty darn high right now. I imagine we'll have to see some Broodlords there just because Corruptor's count is so high. And there is a Greater Spire. Vipers on the way as well here for Neuro. Heading on down, we do see some Lings pushing out, and Hellions trying to even the count once again, and double-pronged attack of Lings, and waiting for this command center to land. No, they don't wait for it to land. They stand right underneath it and say, why don't you try to land your command center now, Mr. Bossman guy? Blue Flame Hellions taking out a couple creep tumors. Very annoying indeed. Going to kill more workers here. And indeed, look at all these workers. Again, they're not running very well. Neuro's response time, not the best I've ever seen in my entire life, but running across the way and stacking up once again. Blue Flame Hellions just killing so many workers. 56 drones have died. 56! Wow, and finally the Hellions do get cleaned up. So basically 56 drones have died in exchange for 16 Hellions. That is a trade that our friends the Terrans would take any day. Using Consume on this hatchery, bringing it down to sub 50% health. Always a bit of a worry. When you're doing this, you're just replenishing the energy on the Viper. It's very nice, but if you do it long enough, it can actually kill the building you're using Consume on. So if he's not careful, did top off just in time, but the hatchery is down to 285 hit points. Corruptors hanging out over here, small group of Queens, big group of Queens, and Broodlords over here as well. Is this an Infestor Queen Broodlord composition? Is this Wings of Liberty or what? Landing the Vikings and using Thors here as well. The Lings try to run on in, but they immediately end up dead. The Hellbats as well. Point defense drone getting taken out by the Corruptors. The Queens just standing right on in. Broodlords throwing down endless waves of Broodlings as well. Transfuse on the Queens, keeping them alive. And the Thors trying to crush as many Corruptors, as many Queens, as many Broodlords as they can. But Blinding Cloud being thrown down, making them less effective, forcing them to get away. But unfortunately, a Thor gets yanked on back using Abduct and does get burned down by those Broodlings. The Queens pushing on out, but the creep does not go quite this far. So without support from the Queens, the Corruptors maybe not as good. Why are the Corruptors coming out here? I don't necessarily see the reason for that. 7 more Corruptors are on the way, plus 3 melee attack as well. And see, the melee attacks actually helps the Broodlings. The Broodlings that the Broodlord shoots down. So the initial attack, when it hits, does 20 damage, right? That's something you upgrade at your Spire. But the Broodlings themselves on the ground actually benefit from upgrades from the Evolution Chambers here for the melee attack and the ground carapace. And so to make them tougher, they are timed units, they don't last forever, but to make them tougher, upgrade those at the Evolution Chamber and upgrade the Broodlord as damaging strike attack at the Spire. Moving on in, Vipers here once again, a lot of tanks and Thors and Vikings. Not enough Vikings though, I don't think. That's kind of the problem here. The Vikings do take out a bunch of overseers that fly over. I think they were just distracting damage. The Corruptor just crushing through everything here in the air. All the Vikings are gone. Transfuses being thrown down on the Corruptors as well. Moving back on out. The tanks want to attack, but they cannot attack and move at the same time. The Broodlings and the Lings getting a surround on in. Another wave of Broodlings falls right on down. If you take a look at one of the Broodlings before they die, can I get one? Yes, see there how as the upgrades, exactly what I was talking about. And the Changelings run on in as well, the Manor Changelings. There is an attack back here with more Blue Flame Hellions roasting up more workers here. 68 drones have died, but somehow Neuro's still in a commanding position, throwing down the sieged Broodlings on top of the missile turrets. Exactly how you deal with static defense, as Zerg is Broodlords. Trying to take down an orbital command as well. This place completely under lockdown, getting repaired by the workers, but that means the workers aren't actually getting any money at the moment, which is a bit of a problem. Caustic spray being used on the planetary fortress right here. Emits a stream of acid that deals 7 damage per second for 4.3 seconds. Increases to 35 damage per second, and great for taking down planetary fortresses. Use this. Zerg players, use it if you want to. Vikings, again, getting double pumped out of those starports, but the number of Corruptors is just too high. Some good micro on the Vikings here, and they do have +1/+1 upgrades, which is nice as well. But here come the Broodlords, slowly and steadily chewing through everything here. Widowmines trying to burrow in and get some shots off on something, and they do get the burrow, but no, Broodlings taking them down. They're Overseers as well, not really doing much work at all. Some SCVs coming on in, trying to distract at the same time, and that's it. Some rage from Tessor. Throwing out the loser. Is he going to tap out? You don't deserve anything. Neuro saying, why is that the case? Broodlings absolutely laying waste to these Thors. Little small units do good against Thors. Lings, Broodlings, etc. here. Corruptors flying on in. The Viking count still being microed. The Corruptors don't have any upgrades themselves on the armor. They do have +1 on the attack. Tessor says, you got queens. What is that all about? Why didn't you make real units? Oh, Tessor, the salt. The salt is so real. Need to send you on into daily sodium intake from Element. Just the rage. And there's the rage quit. Tessor's defeated. Neuro's victorious. And Tessor has left the game. Yeah, maybe that answers our question as to why mech isn't good for Terran. Because it's just too slow. I mean, the reason mech was good back in, what am I going to say here, in Heart of the Swarm is because you could get a lot of tanks out, a lot of Thors out, and then kind of crush the Zerg opponent. And I guess I don't know what the difference is here. Terran players, tell me why mech isn't as good in Legacy of the Void, because all I see here are Broodlords and Corruptors and Queens, which existed in Heart of the Swarm. So maybe Tessor didn't do it right or what. But let me know in the comments. Regardless, it was a very Wings of Liberty style composition here for Neuro. The Corruptors and the Broodlords, a classic pairing. Queens as well, throwing down transfuses on everything. Every single time they had more than 50 energy, Neuro did a great job keeping that energy low. And that was it for a Terran player. So once again, Neuro lost 68 drones. That's usually enough to lose you a game. But in the case where you've already expanded to 4 bases, you're pretty much able to get up the exact composition you need to crush your opponent, and there's nothing they can do about it. It doesn't really matter as much. All right, that's it from me. This has been Falcon Paladin with yet another daily Legacy of the Void upload. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you like what you saw and what you heard today. You can also catch me on Twitter and Facebook, both at /FalconPaladin. And until next time, as always, thanks for watching, and you take care of yourself.